So when I tweet it out, you can also share it,
Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
so yeah, your followers can see that you're on and stuff. Okay, I think we're live. Yeah, there we are. Okay, tweeted. And I'm gonna retweet that on the Baby Gang account. Hold on a second. Streamlabs is looking funky. There we are. Okay. Every day, every day this program gets more and more difficult to use. Thanks, OBS. Okay.
Oh, I don't know if you can hear the thunder, but it's like loud.
It's coming back now.
A little bit, yeah. Let me tweet this.
Okay. We'll see how long we can keep you here before the thunder takes the Wi-Fi out again. Hopefully it'll be okay. Okay, while we do this. While we do this, I'm gonna switch to, no, not this display capture, not that display capture. Switch the display capture. There you are. There you are. Alright, cool. Thanks, Unathi, for saying you loved my ADHD Drake song. Yeah, I just posted that today. If you guys are interested in my music, I'll show you guys that towards the end. I'll make sure I follow you on this account. Everything good over there, Solar?
Yeah, I'm good.
Cool, cool, cool. Did you tweet the link out? Hello, Karina. Hello, VS. Natalia, hello. D Gloss, hello. Emma, hello. Weekend. What's up, everybody? How's everybody's week going? All right, this is super exciting. So, hey, Solar, how are you?
I'm good, I'm good.
It's raining over there, so if we
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of like Florida armies know it's been raining like crazy over here.
Florida armies stand up. Yeah, I mean Florida is pretty tropical. Weather can be a little bit scary over there, I feel like. So I feel like when it rains it can get really intense too.
It's very intense, like, and then the Wi-Fi just goes in and out, so you can never really count on anything.
Well, I'm glad that we have you here right now, Solar. If you guys don't know Solar, as is implicated in the title, they are main Virgos on Twitter. Solar's often putting forth some bangers of tweets, some real good, a good mix of like serious, like more
Yeah,
like,
I just go on there to like talk, you know.
yeah, yeah. And I think you always have something insightful or funny to say, which is always great. And I also think I'm interested in the your pin tweet. Is this edit? Is this Jimin
Mm-hmm.
edit? Is that's your edit or?
Yeah.
So wow. I mean, let me just put this forward for a second, you guys. I'm just gonna pause the music and play this really quickly.
People that know me know like I have this crazy obsession with the Black Swan movie. And then when I found out like that's where they got their concept from, I was like, oh my God, like they did this for me, you know?
Yeah,
So
that's so sick, man. That is such a cool video. Um, yeah, a lot of people were really
and
inspired
I'm
by
really
Black
into
Swan.
film too, yeah.
Yeah, really. How long have you been into film?
For a while, I actually wanted to major in film, but I don't know, that's still up for debate.
Okay, okay. You haven't started college yet?
Mm-mm.
Okay, college is very tricky. College is a very tricky
Yeah.
thing, but you always have time, even when you start college, to be undecided on your major. So I think majoring in film might be a really cool thing to do. Honestly, if I had
Yeah, a lot
any,
of my friends were like, you should pursue this.
yeah, because if I had any talent anywhere close to yours, I would have been probably studying film too. I would have been really into
Oh
it.
my God.
Um, you've been doing edits for a long time?
Yeah, I do it like more of like a hobby. It's never been like nothing serious. I just do it when I'm like bored or you know.
It looks, I mean, for you to just be doing that like when you're bored or just having your time off, it really looks good. Like the concept, I feel like there's a gorilla song in the background, right? And there's like,
Hmm. Yeah, there was I I saw I think you can see it in my reply because I saw like a film account talk about obsession like the obsessed artist trope, and that reminded me like so much of Jimin because I
mm,
really associate him with like, you know, being passionate about dancing. So
it's true. I think it's a perfect match. Like it's actually,
I swear they did Black Swan for me. Like I was so happy when they came out with that song. You should see my streams on that song. Like the amount of times I play that song, it's actually insane. My
it's
friends were like, it's definitely not that serious. I'm like, it definitely is.
it's absolutely that serious. I stream Black
It's
Swan a
definitely
lot
that
too.
serious.
I think Black Swan was my most streamed song last year. I mean, I remember when Black Swan came out, it was really this like it was like shocking that moment. I think because we were all waiting for it to come out. It wasn't quite the single; it was like pre-release single or whatever. And
Hmm.
remember just being up. It was like 4 a.m. in the morning, playing that song for the first time, and just kind of feeling like, "Holy cow! Like, what are we? What the hell are we about to get? Like,
Right,
what
right.
have we walked
Because I
into?"
think was it Spotify that spoiled it, and everyone was
Yeah,
like, "This probably isn't, you know, like this is probably edited," but then it actually turned out to be
yeah,
true. And I was like
yeah.
off the walls. I was like, they definitely did this for me.
You have a you were like really into the film Black Swan before that came out. I guess I'm guessing.
Hmm. Yeah, it really was.
And what do you?
And then like making the connection between
Yeah.
the way like the lyrics and everything to the actual film. Like I wrote a paper on it, I think, like
Whoa.
just for fun. But yeah,
Just for fun, like you didn't submit it?
no, I didn't submit it, but I was just really passionate about it.
That's so sick. I know. I've been mentioning her in the past couple of streams, but there's a YouTuber Gabby Has Thoughts who just did a video comparing the original Swan Lake by Tchaikovsky and then the Black Swan film and Black Swan by BTS and an essay.
Yeah.
And I started
Hmm.
watching it. I didn't get a chance to finish it, but it was super sick. So,
That's why I felt like they did it for me because I'm also very like into classical. And the
mm,
fact that they incorporated like the string quartet into like they did another version with that quartet, and I was like they're bringing in everything I really love,
mm.
and like yeah, I really love that song.
I think every time BTS works with like the strings or like some sort of orchestral instrumentation, it's like it's almost like
Yeah, I say this all the time. Like when you have BTS incorporating string instruments into a song, it really does bring like a different like this intense feel to the song. It really elevates the song for me, in my opinion.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, and speaking of Jimin, like one of the greatest examples is "Lie," right? And like that
Right,
record
right.
is, I mean, its composition is so complex and interesting, and
The composition, like after Black Swan, Lie is definitely my favorite song when it comes to like composition. Like when you break down the different instruments and how they're incorporated, like how they mesh, it's like a really beautiful song.
it
It's a very passionate song.
it always feels like BTS's productions, like every single choice that they make is like very intentional and like just to
Yeah, their
communicate
production is
something.
definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah, I mean, we just saw BTS perform yesterday. We saw the live lounge performance of "I'll Be Missing You," and as well as "Permission to Dance" and "Dynamite." And
I was so upset because I fell asleep before I got before I got a chance to watch it, but I actually rewatched it and I really loved it.
yeah,
And like one thing I hope they do in the future is more live bands. I love when they incorporate like live bands into their performances. I feel like it really elevates the song.
it does. I mean, there's a lot of artists that will like bring in a live band, and it'll kind of sound corny, especially when you think about
Hmm.
like um, all the different
Like it
genres.
doesn't,
You
yeah,
know,
it doesn't take away when they bring in like a live band. And I
well,
really enjoy that.
it adds if anything. Like I really feel like one of the things when I think about BTS with the live band with the Ghost Band is the Ma City performances from the Hua Yunhua tours. Those
Yeah.
every time the band just brings that thing down, like just absolutely takes the roof off. It's just amazing the kind of energy and the power that the band provides aside from like how great their musicianship is and how beautiful everything sounds. It's it's
Yeah, it's really something I enjoy.
how long have you? I want to get into like how long you've been in
How long
army.
I've been standing?
Yeah.
Uh, this story is like, okay, so I've actually been standing since they debuted.
Whoa.
Yeah, I found K-pop actually through this other group that I don't really want to mention because yeah, but I fell down like this K-pop hole and I was like, okay, this is interesting, but I've never really been like a stan until them. And then I found them and they were like the whole introduction of the members and everything. I swear I felt so drawn to them. I was like, this really seems like a really solid group.
Mm-hmm.
And I just fell for them. Like, and I got everyone, like, I swear I got like everyone in my family into it. Like, I have siblings and they'll come to me every time BTS will drop something. They'll be like, oh, did you know this? And I'm like, yeah, I do. But yeah, I've been standing for a long time. You could say I practically like grew up with them. Like they raised me, you know?
That's awesome. I was just thinking about the idea of of like growing with BTS. I had tweeted about it because I really do feel like a lot of one of the key factors of being a BTS fan and hopefully a fan of anything, but especially being a BTS fan is like that feeling like because like it feels like BTS are very much intentional about wanting their audience to grow with them and to help them grow, help them get through things, help
Hmm.
them evolve. And I'm interested to hear like sort of more about how you feel about how you've grown with BTS, like where you were and where they were like in 2013 when they were debuting and you found them up until now, like how you've
It
progressed over
was
the years,
so crazy watching Jungkook grow. I feel like is the main one I want to talk about because like he was so young back then and I was like literally a child. But the fact that he's grown so much is just like he's grown so much as a singer, as a performer. He's always been like a star, you know, but
Yeah.
like watching him grow, he's actually him and June are the two people that really inspire me most.
Yeah.
Like I love their passion and like drive for music. Like
Yeah.
Jungkook's love for his artistry, I love that so much about him.
Yeah, I mean, he's somebody. I mean, when we saw the Weavers interview recently, like you could see
Hmm.
him just sort of breaking down exactly like his thoughts and intentions in terms of how what he's calculating, what he's thinking about when it comes to recording and going over these records. I mean, it's just another reminder, of course, that BTS have a lot of power. They have the ultimate power when it comes to their own music. It's not just like they're being handed stuff, which I feel like
Yeah,
everybody
that's
should know.
that's something I really enjoy about them. It's like as they've aged, their love for music has never dwindled. Like the amount of effort they put in, that's very rare in my opinion for a lot of artists because some people tend to like as they gain that level, they sort of get comfortable. They don't really explore more. They don't really put themselves out there. They don't really experiment.
Yeah,
But BTS has never like shied away from, doing any of that. And that's
yeah,
just really something that's I could never get tired of BTS. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
they always do something new, something fun, and there's something in their discography for everyone. Like no matter what genre of music you prefer, what you're into, there's something there for like all of you.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it's amazing how varied their discography is. And it's also amazing how cohesive it feels in a way because of how intentional they are. Like we were talking about in terms of the music and everything, and in terms of Jungkook, like it's like each of the members have such an intentionality with everything they do with the music. Like they're interested in pushing certain, like in talking about certain messages, and sharing certain things about themselves, and having certain types of impact on their audience. And that's something that I don't think most people really think about that deeply as artists. I think one of the things that is their superpower that has brought them to this point is that they're so focused on like what can we say to our fans, what can we say to audiences receiving this that can have like affect them in some sort of positive way, whether it's like they're slightly happier or their life might change philosophically. And most artists I don't even think would know how to think about that. It's such a difficult thing to take on, and yet they, even as a group of 7 people with different ideas and stuff, somehow manage to do that every time, which I think is very
There's such
difficult.
an anomaly,
Yeah,
in my opinion, with that because it's crazy to imagine 7 people. Like that's a lot of people, 7 people having that amount of harmony between themselves, but still having their own individuality.
yeah.
It's really like nice to watch that unfold.
It is. It is. I think it kind of inspires me, and it's really obvious. I mean, it's obviously BTS inspires me. Like, I'm not.
Yeah.
It's not something that It's a phrase you take for granted. Like as all of us as fans, it's like, oh yeah, they inspire us, whatever. But like, really, like there are times when I'm having a bad day or I'm needing some sort of inspiration somewhere, and I'm literally just like, let me put on a V Live from BTS. Do you know what I mean? Or let me watch something that they
Yeah.
performed. And I think that that's so. It's crazy because almost every single time I just feel like my direction changes. Like something shifts in me each time, and I don't know how they do it.
Right. I share that feeling. Like you really, especially when listening to their music, you really discover something new each time.
Yeah. You find like, for instance, there's stuff about the world that they'll be doing. Like when you look at something like Permission to Dance, it's like you can analyze like what that is saying to the rest of the world, right? Obviously, it's this message about the pandemic and happiness and all these. It's like this metaphor, all these things. But then you can analyze it from the standpoint of their career, like what are they going through and how that might be affecting them and how it might be positive, like how it's affecting them to make a song like this after what they've felt over the past couple of years. There's like so many different points through
Yeah.
which you can
I
analyze.
feel like they're going through a transitional type of period in their
Yeah.
life. I think I noticed this with the Love Yourself series. It's like we always talk about how they haven't reached their peak, and this is sort of like another hurdle
Yeah.
for them. You can see like they're trying to take in the fact that like, wow, getting number ones is now like a regular thing for us that wasn't necessarily here before. And
Yeah.
just like the Love Yourself series, like the amount of fans they gained and the amount of support, they weren't necessarily used to that.
Yeah.
So you can tell from like the Weverse interviews and everything, this is like it's another transition for them. And we're watching them grow even more. And it's crazy how this really isn't their peak.
No, I
Like that's
mean,
really crazy to think about.
it's like we don't even understand fully or are able to discuss in great detail like exactly what's happening right now. Like it's going to take us years and years and more BTS moments and more like sort of time to really process exactly what this is and like all the different things that are going on right now as a result of or correlating to BTS, you know?
Yeah, I completely agree. I just love watching them grow, and I love watching people discover their music. I love watching people. I just love putting new people on to their music. That's like one of the things I love most. It's like, wow, like, you know how people are like, the fandom is passionate, but watching people like discover why we're so passionate and why we are the way we are with BTS is one of the things I enjoy as a fan.
Yeah, I mean, when you realize like the kind of things BTS are doing, and you see it, and you connect to it, it's almost impossible not to be passionate for because there's both positive and negative factors that really incite that kind of passion in you. Where it's like on the positive side, of course, you see what BTS are doing and like what kind of effect they're having, and what kind of things that they're trying to communicate and trying to help people with, and these kinds of things help inspire you to be like, yeah, like we need more people to see this and we want more people to understand this. But then you also
Right.
understand that there's a lot of people that don't really take the time out to even open their mind to it, and I think that also makes people stay in a in a kind of passionate mindset where it's like you're constantly like, let me continue to fight the good fight, you know what I mean, because there's still so many
Hmm.
barriers that have to be broken, kind of.
Yeah, and I feel like people don't necessarily they're like prejudiced to it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people don't want to open up to the fact that, and I guess it's something I've noticed a lot with standing K-pop idols, specifically. People are like ashamed to tell people like, oh, I'm into this and that,
Yeah.
because they think people are gonna be like, oh, why are you like, the stigma of K-pop. And
Yeah.
it's like once you really get past that, you can just enjoy what you enjoy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Wait, go ahead.
I really want, like, I've noticed this pattern where new armies, like I understand wanting to be in a space where you have people that share the same interests as you, but I feel like a lot of people should get into the, like, fully get into the music
Yeah.
before they create an account, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I notice a lot of times people will be like arguing with antis and stuff like that, but they don't really know the music like that. And that's something that kind of bothers me because, in my opinion, as a fan, the first thing I would get into is their catalog. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like my opinion, my first thing wouldn't be to just create a stan account and I'm not familiar with the music or the lyrics or
Yeah.
stuff like that. So that's one thing that really like kind of bothers me, is when people don't take the time, like even as a new fan, they don't take the time to step into the music, and they're like, oh well, you can't expect people to know their stuff like that. And I'm just saying, well, as a fan, what, like, I would rather you get into the music than create an account, like, you know what I mean? Like
Uh,
you can want to be familiar with other people that have interests as you,
yeah.
because in real life you don't have that.
Right.
But I think it's better to just get into the music first.
Yeah. It's. I think it's very necessary, and you can even say past their music, that's getting to know like what they say, like what they're saying in interviews and V lives and their story. Like it's not necessarily to say like you can't make an account, but it's like you people like to interject themselves into things often, even when they don't
Hmm.
have the sort of facts or the understanding of the situation. It's very incentivized to do that because it takes time to really build an
I
understanding of
think it
something.
stems from the, like, the fact that, you know, on the timeline people will be like, oh, remember in 2017 on Army Twitter, remember on 2019, and
Yeah.
they're new fans and they don't quite have that experience themselves. So I feel like do that because they want to have like their own remember when moment. But I feel like it's better to just like stray away from that. Like it doesn't make you less of a fan just because you don't have that same experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think people have these different ideas of what it means to be an army and like how to be a good army. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way that you can really define it for people like, oh, this is how you're supposed to be a fan, but you definitely don't want your idea of being a fan to be based off of like some kind of understanding you think you have about fans and about the fandom and about BTS that you haven't really thought about much, and that you're not so familiar with the topics or the music or whatever. You really want to make sure, like, especially for your own sake but also for the sake of other people, for 100%, you don't want to be putting yourself in a position where you're representing the things or saying things just because you think that that's what you're supposed to be doing, and you like
Yeah.
the feeling of it, or you like the acceptance you get from people that you feel when you're, fitting in a certain way.
Yeah. I completely agree. I feel like they do it because they think it makes them like be better fans.
Right.
And it's not really necessary, you know what I mean?
Right. I agree. I think it's not necessary. I think it's tough. I think it's tough.
Yeah, and I feel like especially people should stop trying to fit into a box of what a true fan is. I feel like a lot of people like that's why
One.
there's so many solo stand issues because people think if they do this and that and they let people get in their ear about what it means to be a true fan. Like if they think they're not doing what needs to be done, then that doesn't make them like a true fan. And I feel like you can define for yourself what makes you a fan of something.
Yeah, I think you can define for yourself for sure. I think you have to be responsible 100% for your actions, and also it's okay also to look to other people for guidance, right? You should look to other fans to tell you like hey, like, are you able to tell me like what exactly, like your some things about BTS or some things about the fandom's history, and like if I don't understand necessarily something, talking to somebody in private who's been around the fandom for a while, right? Because you want to build your own understanding. We're not all going to have the same opinions. Like a lot of people have said here or in other channels, it's like the thing we have in common as armies is that we like BTS. And sometimes you go on Twitter and you're like, damn, do people even like BTS, right?
Right.
Because the way some people talk about BTS. But in particular, it's kind of like, aside from that, you're gonna draw your own conclusions, and you hope to draw your own conclusions, but you should draw them based off of the information that really exists, and not based off of some compulsion to like try to be cool or try to like fit a certain standard.
Right.
Because
And
that,
speaking
yeah,
of like Stan Twitter, I feel like a lot of new fans shouldn't let Stan Twitter really get in their head about things because at this point people are sort of forcing themselves to be upset about BTS. Like at this point people are forcing themselves to just hate because
right.
it's like really what really truly makes you upset about like seven men just doing their thing and making music. Like sometimes you just step back and you're just like, wow, like people are weird. And
Yeah,
you don't notice this, you don't notice the sort of things people do when it comes to BTS is really bizarre. Like sometimes you step
yeah.
back and it's like, I've never in my life seen anything like this before.
I think sometimes we don't even take enough of a step back to really absorb it, because we're so caught up in it. We're so caught up in, oh, they're gonna drag this. What if they say this? What is this? What is that? You get messages like, especially if you have a big account, you get these messages and replies all the time, like panicking and like people talking about what some other fandom is saying, or some other fan, or like, look at this tweet or whatever. And you don't sort of stop to say sometimes like, hey, you know, that's actually the weirdest behavior. Like that's very un.
Right. Sometimes you have to step back and be like, there's no point in engaging with this because you can tell these people like there's no sort of helping them. Like this is just the way they are. And another thing is I don't really I don't want to say the line like curate your timeline because it's unrealistic to say you won't ever see racism thrown at BTS or anything like that. But I think you can control your timeline you can control yourself in a way where you don't necessarily have to interact with
Right.
everything because after a certain point it turns into like an echo chamber.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like once you've heard one thing, you've heard them all.
I mean, it can
So it's
be.
best to like
Yeah. It can be really frustrating sometimes to log into Army Twitter and see somebody like tweet something that you've seen written like 500 times before.
yeah, like after you've been standing for a long time, you're like, this is so 2017. Like we've definitely seen this before. So at some point you just stop, you know? But I think when it comes to the racism they face and stuff like that, you can't really avoid that and you're often going to see that. And I can understand how it really gets to the person that's standing, but
Right.
I feel like it's best to just tune certain things out.
Yeah, I think it's best to like you have to pick and choose too. Like, um, I think
Right,
there's something
because
to like this degree of like okay, like you're not always going to avoid the discourse, and you not don't necessarily always want to avoid the discourse or always want to avoid
mm,
like engaging with somebody that you think is being an asshole, right? Like there's some times where it's like
yeah,
this hit tweet or with this thing, I really want to say something about this, cause I feel like I'll have something important to say or I just want to let something out, right? That's perfectly fine, and I think people who are like chasing this like oh constant positivity, constant everybody's only saying like nice things and I don't have to engage with any of the people who are saying bad things, like I don't think that that's much of a solution, right? But on the other hand, it's like you pick and choose, like okay, if I'm feeling up for it and I haven't, you know, I'm willing to like be calm and be restrained and be smart about how I respond to something, or I know when I have something important to say, etc., etc. Like those are times when it's like, okay, maybe then I can engage. But a lot of the time, it's like I can let somebody else handle it, or I'm not in a space
right.
mentally to
Like a lot
handle
of the
it.
time, I'll see something on the timeline and be like, y'all got it.
Yeah,
Like, y'all can handle this. Like, I've seen this before. I'm gonna see it again. You know what I mean? Because a lot of these people, they just like to repeat the same takes.
yeah.
Like the takes get repetitive, and you're just like, well, I've seen this before. Y'all got this.
It's pretty lame. Like it's pretty silly, I should say. Like it's silly how often like everything really feels like a repeated argument from both sides, where it's like
Hmm.
armies are it's like I feel like it feels kind of embarrassing almost that we have to say the same things over and over again when it's very obvious that people aren't going to listen, like at that point. Like okay, like I think if we had to do maybe get like maybe you want to get creative about it or you want to try different things or maybe it's worth
Right. They
repeating,
haven't
but
even gotten creative. It's like you hear the same things
yes.
consistently. And it's just like you just look at a tweet and you're just like, wow, I've definitely seen this before. Let me move on. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? You don't dwell.
Like the big like oh like people are just you know they're obsessed with these celebrities that they live vicariously through and they think they don't even know you da da da.
Right. And that's like a take that's been around since the dawn of the internet. You know what I'm saying? Like the
Yeah.
whole, we all are dependent on celebrities. You don't even know all that. Like we've definitely heard this before.
Yes, it exists in all types of communities. It's existed for I mean people have always tried to
And
paint
it's kind
the
of
thing.
funny. It's more funny about the people it comes from more than what they say
Yeah.
because you'll have like an anime fan talk about how K-pop fans are obsessed with Asian content. You know what I'm saying? It'll be like incels saying this stuff, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, there's definitely some sort of dissonance here. Like,
It's some sort
you
of
know what I mean?
projection, I think.
Yeah, it's mostly projection.
I think
And that's when you start to tune stuff out because you're like,
yeah, yeah. It's like you're like okay, like yeah, it comes from everywhere. Whether it's like in anime Twitter or some random on YouTube, it's like you have these YouTubers that have hundreds and thousands of followers talking about these fandoms. They just kiss ass and da da da, and they don't think for
right. And
themselves.
it'll
It's
be like
parasocial
people whose
relationship,
platforms are built off the
parasocial
same
relationships.
type
Yeah,
of, yeah,
yeah. It's the same, and it's like we're all very much engaged in parasocial relationships. We're
right.
all people who look up to people we don't know. We all have there's all types of things that just like armies, people, everyone does. And a lot of people are just this very ashamed because they don't want to look like us. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, so they just project
yeah,
everything that's being said about them onto, other people. And it's like not a surprising thing because you see it all the time.
yeah, it's like an internalized hatred. Like, I think people
Hmm.
really are ashamed to admit certain things about themselves, are ashamed to be critical of themselves and the way that they engage with the world. So they build these kinds of things that they have this anger towards deep in their heart, because a lot of the times it's because they know that, like, subconsciously they're the same way, or they feel these things about their own lives. And rather than take that time out to be self-critical and thoughtful about how they engage with it, they're just like, well, I don't, as long as I'm not those guys, like as long as I'm not the armies over there, those BTS fans or those K-pop stands or whatever, as long as I don't look
Yeah.
like that, so I'm good,
And I wanted to talk about like the way I've noticed how BTS's music, specifically like art wise, how it inspires a lot of fans, because I noticed this shift during D2 era, I would say,
Mm.
with like fan artists and the type of like content they were pumping out. And it was like you can see how different eras and different stuff they're doing inspires a lot of creatives. And something this fandom is like extremely talented. You know what I mean? Like you see the promotion videos that some armies do, like the edits they do, and it's like you people are doing this for like a comeback. Like you could make serious money off of this. And that's something I really enjoy, is like seeing the different forms of creativity in the fandom.
Yeah, I think being creative is one of the best ways to like, it's one of the prettiest ways that you can like kind of engage with the world and with the things that you're passionate about, right? Is being your creative on your own, in your own way. When you see something that really inspires you and you're inspired by art, you love art,
Hmm.
whatever. One of the biggest ways to really show your appreciation and to really engage on that level is to create art on your own. What kind of better compliment, sorry for the motorcycles in the background, what kind of better compliment would it be to an artist to say, like, you inspired me and this is what I made, and
Yeah.
even if it's bad, like sometimes it's like, okay, well, I don't like it, but but there's so many artists that
Yeah.
are like genuinely talented, although for whatever that means, like so many artists that make stuff that I have been moved by, and it's amazing how that cycle kind of happens, right?
Mm. Like Black Swan again, like it really sparked a lot of creativity in me. And like I just really appreciate them for releasing that song. I get it really, I did so much when that song came out. I was like the analysis I did, the stuff I made, like it really did inspire me.
That's I think that's really cool, and I think you can see that, like when you made with the edit that we looked at, like
Mm,
it's visible, like obviously that you were very inspired by that, and you were
yeah.
very inspired by Chimin, you were very inspired by Black Swan, and then you made your own thing. I think
Mm,
that's a really important cycle to pay attention to, because I think we often see ourselves as just receivers, right? We just see ourselves
yeah.
as people who just look at art and like look at BTS and go, wow, that's great. And I think the step that we should all think about taking is, how can I look at what's going on? How can I see this thing that I'm inspired by and then turn it into something new and have an impact in my own way? And if the more and more that we can do that, the more and more also that it, I think, benefits the thing that we, are inspired by, and the thing that we, want to champion. If it's BTS and we're inspired by them and then we create our own things, I think that in a way is a great way also to be a testament to BTS, like to show like, look at
Yeah,
us.
the fandom artist relationship between like us and them is really evident because you can see how they talk about in ways they're inspired by us and we're inspired by them. And you can see like the work that both sides come out with. And I think that's a lot of things non-stands aren't aware of that I feel like they should really get a chance to see, which is like something I think about all the time. Once I'm seeing like BTS content, I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
there are people who aren't privy to seeing any of this, which is a reason like I introduce as many people I can to their music because I'm like, a lot of people should be able to see this.
Tell me a little bit about that. Tell me about people that you've introduced BTS to and how you did it.
Oh, I had friends that were really hesitant, because I talked about like the stigma of K-pop stands and how people perceive them. They were really hesitant, and I was like, like why not just try it? And it was crazy because I would do it in class when we would have like free time, and it got so many people into their music, and they would come to me and they're like, oh my gosh, like I can see now like why you're so into it the way you are. And I was like, yeah, I just love sharing music mostly. Like, I always say music is a love language for me. It's really something that's helped me cope and process things better and like communicate better. Music is a really important thing in my life. So to be able to share a piece of music that I'm passionate about with other people and get them to see it the way I do. And a lot of people have been like, oh, this really helped me.
Yeah.
And to be able to do that is something I really love.
I mean,
like even my family's into it, so
wow. I think
yeah.
that's a super thoughtful way of looking at it. Like we often talk about when we were suggest music to people to be like, oh, check this out, man, you might like BTS. We're always thinking about like, oh, you like this style of music, so maybe you might like this song, or maybe you like the way that this song sounds or what they did on this stage. But to show something to somebody and be like, hey, like this, I think you might appreciate what they're saying here, what this might come across to you. I think is one of the biggest ways that you can connect with people, because there's so many things that BTS does that connect with people in that way, and that's what really makes the sort of fandom, like a lot of it, so much more special, is that people have these deep connections with the things that they've done, because the things that they've done have required not only all this effort and talent, but have been specifically like made in this way that can help heal or help teach people going through certain things.
I think that's something that's so interesting about their music is the fact that you have a piece of art and you have millions that are consuming that art, but it means something different to every single individual, and that's something that's hard to come across with a lot of art and a lot of fans. So I think it's very interesting and cool that they can do that, because you don't really see a lot of times something that translates over any sort of group or any sort of thing. And the fact that different people can say, well, I took this from the song, or I took that from the song, or this is what the song did for me.
Right.
I think that's something that's really beautiful.
Yeah, I think about Mono in that way a lot, right? Like Mono's this record that it's a lot of Namjoon talking about things that are incredibly personal to him, but he does it in this way where, whether directly or indirectly, it allows for people who go through similar things or the same things, or even just similar vibes, to like find their own resonance with it, like to really resonate and to have it be healing and empowering to them, which I just
Right, and it was crazy to me. I remember this particular argument I saw that really just angered me, because it was And again, that side of Twitter, like the art side, it's a very strange side
Mm.
that I've always sort of ignored. But it was a fan artist that was talking about how to them, June was kind of pretentious because he
Yeah.
didn't release official lyrics to Mono. And it's crazy to see it really just is a person with a negative mindset because a lot of other people saw him not doing that as like a sort of way of them getting to interpret the song with however which way it translated for them, you know what I mean? So it was crazy to see someone take it negatively.
It's I think there's a lot of people that really pride themselves on trying to find the negative because I think that for them
Hmm.
it'll make them feel like, oh yeah, well I'm critically analyzing things and I'm not just lapping up everything. I can point out sometimes when something's not right or when something's like doesn't work or whatever. And I think it's kind of funny to me at this point because I can kind of always feel it. Oh wow, look,
Yeah.
look at this person. Look at this objective critic. Wow, love that.
And
Um,
there's never any nuance to these
no,
takes. They just say things and they're so sure that like it makes sense.
yeah, I mean that's definitely like a Twitter quality for sure, or a social media
Yeah.
quality in general that people love to
Twitter is
have.
definitely an app where people just regurgitate things that they think are true.
And I think that that's part of why you want to encourage people like try to be individualistic about your experience in a way where you get all the information, you hear all the sides out and stuff, but you're also making your own decisions about what it means to you to be a good army. You know what I mean? Like what it means to you to
Yeah.
like be a fan in the best way that's in the way that's best for you. Because I mean, people will argue about streaming and say like, oh, people are forcing you to stream, which I just don't think is true, and like, our armies thinks this
Right. Because to
way.
me, streaming is just you put on a playlist and you go out your day. Like you can just do regular things. People do that as they're studying or
Yeah,
doing chores. I think people like to demonize certain things just because it comes from a K-pop like
yeah,
section.
yeah,
People demonize things that are regularly done,
yeah, yep,
and it really is just strange to see because you'll see like I think a lot of people just don't step out of their view and they're like, this is something like you're blowing this out of proportion. I think that's a
yeah,
lot of things I notice on Twitter. People like to purposely make themselves upset over regular things.
yeah.
And that's why I don't like engage in a lot of stuff because I'm like, this is something, and it'll be like adults too. Like you're grown enough to understand something is not as demonic or as not as serious as you're trying to make it be, you know?
Yeah, I am 100% with you, especially when you said like people get angry over regular things. Like the things that people get angry about on Army Twitter. It's like almost baffling to me sometimes. I'm just like,
Yeah, sometimes I just look at something and I'm just like, you're definitely forcing yourself to be
yep.
upset over this. Like, this isn't something a regular person would ever find themselves angered by.
I think people are either forcing themselves sometimes or they've always just wanted to be angry and they just are looking for any excuse. Like, you want to believe, for instance, BTS is, not under, doesn't have any agency, and Big Hit is forcing them to do things. So any little thing that you find that can potentially confirm, quote unquote, that idea, it's just gonna be, what you hop onto, even if you look absolutely like silly for for making that connection. It's just gonna be immediately your thought process. And I think people are very convinced of certain things and love to think of themselves as like the objective genius or like the outsider individual mind, without actually being
Right.
very individualistic in what they're thinking because they're usually just regurgitating points other people are saying that are not well thought out.
Yeah, like the idea, I think a lot of something I've noticed is it always comes from a certain group of people, and it's usually like white centric accounts that are giving takes, and it's giving very much like savior.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? They think they're doing BTS a favor by having this take
Right.
or having this opinion. And a lot of times, something I think a lot of armies, like solo or like Manti or not,
Yeah.
like regular armies, I think a lot of like something they don't seem to understand. And yeah, you know Naya, right?
Yes.
She said this before, and it's like a lot of issues people have are actually with BTS themselves and not the company,
Yep.
but they try to mask it in a way that's like, oh, I have an issue with the company doing this. And a lot of time it's just BTS's decision,
Yeah.
but they don't want people to see the fact that they have an issue with what BTS are doing. So they try to hide it under the guise that like, oh, I'm having an issue with the company and it's the company's issue.
Yeah. Or
And
I'm
that's something a lot
anti-capitalist.
of people, yeah. Oh my God, there's nothing more annoying than that side of Twitter. And again, they're always white, and it's very odd for like them. And it's like you're the root of this issue that you're trying to put on BTS. Like every single like I remember you remember when they tried to attack Hobie for I think he was eating a burger and it was like white vegans getting upset
Oh yeah.
and I was like the food industry, y'all are at the root of why our planet is being destroyed. You know what I mean? So it's like for you to have takes that's like, oh, we need to eat better, and you're trying to target this at people of color
Yeah.
when you guys are at the like center of why things are now the way they are. That's like one of the main issues I have because it's like at the center of every issue, you'll have people that are trying to take something and pin it on BTS while they themselves are the actual problem.
Yeah. I think I generally like kind of word it like I think people just genuinely put their brains on a holiday when they think about BTS. Like when it comes to BTS, I think people just don't engage in a serious way because they don't think that they have to, and they think it's fun and it's a fun way for them to have an outlet where they can just trash something or be silly about something and be misinformed about something, and there's no consequence, there's no point to it because it's just K-pop, it's just BTS, it's just frivolous. And you're just constantly dealing with these things that are said over and over again where it's like if this was said about something that society, a group of people that society deemed lofty and important, then everybody would be like unified and like, how dumb is this is so terrible, this is so da da da.
Yeah, they always expect people to rally behind them, and it's always the exact opposite because it's like you have to realize what you're saying is not as revolutionary as you want it to sound. And it was crazy when it's just some of these things you think about telling a non-fan. Like imagine telling somebody who isn't a stan that BTS got attacked for doing a meal with McDonald's. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like people thought they were so revolutionary talking about the food industry and how workers are being and it's
Oh
insane.
man. Oh.
Like that was crazy to me. Like I watched in real time BTS get attacked for having a nugget meal. Like never in my life did I think, oh wow, this is something that's definitely going to happen. Like it's bizarre.
It's like, bro, like I know Marxists, bro. Like I know leftists. I've interviewed significant left, like very famous leftist people. I know, like, I've been like, I've read the like I know the shit, right? Like I'm not some sort of expert, but I definitely know people who are very much interested in revolutionary practices and organizing. They do not have any interest in some sort of BTS endorsement deal. There's no way
Right.
that your average person who's organizing to benefit the working class is gonna raise a fit because a group did an endorsement, or they only become gather this energy for it because it's BTS. And again,
Right. I was just about to
it's
say because you had the Travis Scott burger and then you
yeah.
had the Popeye sandwich, I think. And you have so many different things that occur. They never have that same energy for BTS themselves. It's always like a projection because they expect other people. to rally behind them. And they outrage more because they think locals that aren't fans are going to like create a huge uproar. And it's funny because locals are usually the people that rally behind BTS.
Yeah.
Like if you had people on TikTok, that app is a hellhole. I don't know.
Yeah.
You had people on TikTok before the drop telling armies like, "Oh, you guys don't do fan chants at the drive-through. Don't scream and yell." And you had locals doing, and it was locals themselves, like non-fans, that were doing the absolute most and were having fun with the meal. And
Literally.
it's like you guys try to cause an uproar every time, and it never works. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like 90 to 95% of my friends are not BTS fans at all. Like they see what I do and they're like, "Wow, that's kind of wild." BTS, like look at Elliot, he's got all these followers on Twitter and he's talking about BTS all the time.
Right.
And all they think about is like, "Oh, cool." You know what I mean? And that's it. And it's not, you know, I'm sure a lot of people like there's probably some people that that are holding some things back and think they're, have their judgments or whatever, but like
Hmm.
especially as time passes and they see you talk about it, they see more information come out about BTS, they see BTS do this and that. It just becomes like, oh, cool, like he's a fan of this artist, they talk about it, he's part of the community, whatever, and then they just let it be, and they're just like, that's cool, and they don't engage with it because they're not interested, whatever. But
Right.
it's not a thing for them where it's like you don't ever hear people who aren't actively invested in some, you know, K-pop fan war or some sort of music war or some sort of larger like culture war that's based in like anti-Asian ideas or whatever. You never see anybody aside from those people raise up this big fuss about BTS doing something problematic. And it's not to say like, oh, BTS are infallible, they'll never make a mistake. It's to say like, if you are confused and wondering if this is like genuine revolutionary praxis that people are doing when they criticize BTS, it's not. It's just people looking for things to connect their already extant hatred of BTS to, you know?
And speaking of like criticism, one of the main issues I have is a lot of people try to hide their like racist, like it's not even a micro aggression, it's very
Yeah.
macro. They try to hide under the guise of just criticizing a song or criticizing a cover or like put like the English singles they released, for example. It was like people like it's a difference in saying, "Oh, I don't like this song. It's not for me." Like you can say that and move on with your day, versus you doing a thread on your account about how BTS are selling their Korean image and their sellouts and their, you know what I mean? And it's like it's all rooted. At the end of the day, it all comes back to racism. It's never just a simple critique and move on. There's always a level of like heavy racist undertones.
Yeah. It's
And
a
it's very off-putting.
To me, I think it's this combination of Orientalism and misogyny. I think it's a
Hmm.
combination of, anything that's women's interest, anything that's seen as feminine or feminist, in global society gets absolutely thrown under the bus with every opportunity. You know, we know that, and we also know that being in the West, there's this just idea of anything that comes from the East having to be a certain way, and if it's not that way, then it's either terrifying or it's silly or it's both, and um, that's the kind of this kind of intersection of those things is very prevalent in anything that touches K-pop. And for BTS, even though they've done all these things, it's very, very easy to find exactly like what they say, what they've been on the record with thinking, what their music says, etc., etc. It's not hard. Despite that,
Right.
people don't even need to look at it because they're speaking from the Orientalism and from their misogyny first. And it's very easy for them to do that because nobody checks them on it. And the only people that check them on it are us, but we're part of that, so that we're just getting made fun of more. You know what I mean? Which is like
Right.
very convenient for them. But the sad thing is for them, that this thing is not going anywhere. Do you know what I mean? Like you were mentioning, this thing BTS are not peaking, is only getting more and more powerful, and at some point, even people that before were like very willing to just be very dismissive of BTS and fall into those kinds of problematic things, are now more and more opening to BTS and more being like, yeah, whatever, or all these fans, whatever,
Right. You
like,
can tell it's definitely they're definitely upset about the fact that a lot of the times locals are very open to discovering things about BTS. Like, and you can tell like they really want people to critique BTS and rally behind them, and it never works. And it's
yes.
just, you think it's just really at the end of the day, it's like I said before, like you've seen one take, you've seen them all. It's like at this point, people like over the years, you can tell people are just regurgitating the same things they've been saying for a long time.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of content on this on Twitter and on other websites, on this website, YouTube, that we will look back on and say this did not age well. This did not age well.
Right.
But it's important for us too, like those of us who have something interesting or important to say it, and make sure that we keep, making sure that needle gets pushed in the right direction, because like I always say, this is bigger than BTS. Like this is about this big thing that's shifting in our world that BTS are at the center of in many ways. But what we're seeing is change in some aspects, and we should be proactive about, when we're inspired, letting that inspiration come out. When we have something important to say, saying it, because rather than being caught up in, oh, I'm going to, let's worry about what people are saying about BTS, let's worry about locals,
Hmm.
whatever. It's more about like, let's actually focus on us. What can we do that can have a positive impact?
Yeah. Like, and just growing with them,
Yeah.
like new or old, is just something like that's been a big part of my life. I could never see myself. I don't know. I just don't understand how people unstand, because it's like how do you walk away from this? Or how can you say like a song isn't for you when like an album can drop and you have different songs? Like I said before, there's something in their discography for everyone. Like no matter what you're into, you can find something for you. So for a lot of people to say like, "Oh, I don't have anything in their music that really speaks to me." It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I don't really buy it.
I'm with you. It's, you know I think it's standing something, whatever terminology you want to use, whatever conditions you think that make something different from being a fan versus being a stan, whatever. It's like, it's really not that hard to just listen to music, and it's really not that hard to just
Right.
think about something that you like thinking about that inspires you. And I think a lot of K-pop fandom is steeped in performativity. If you like something, you
A
have to
lot of
perform
people
it.
also aren't like here for the music, and you can tell. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, K-pop is not about music. When it comes to
Yeah.
the Korean idol industry, it's about idols. It's not about music. And
It's about the image.
yeah, I mean, it's about the image. It's about creating idol figures for certain audiences to eat off of, and that's why people see it. That's why people are so oh, I'm past this. I'm over K-pop now,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm not. I'm moving on. I'm like selling my
Because they were never
records.
like here for the music in the first place.
The music was just part of a package that included them being obsessed with an idol. Um,
Yeah.
and that's part of life. I mean, that's why it's a very smart industry in that sense, because humans just tend to love to be obsessed with certain idols, right? And that exists in every facet of the world. But I think also, for the many of us who genuinely like this music, who love BTS's music, who love other artists' music, even like there's no need for us to perform or try to match up to somebody's expectation. Especially when it comes to
Right.
BTS, it's like, yo, we've made our footprint, and our footprint is just getting more and more heavy, and people can either fuck with it or not. But I'm not doing this because of some image, or I'm not doing this because it's some sort of phase that I want to explore, some like little island I want to travel to. Like, this is something I really fuck with, and if I really fuck with it, then I fuck with it, and there's nothing to perform about that, you know.
And it's funny because you said how you can go back on things and see how like it didn't this tape didn't age well. And I've noticed like every year people talk about, oh, this is going to be their downfall. This is going to make people unstand. And they gain millions of fans
Yeah.
every month, every year, and they're not even at their peak. And that's crazy to see, especially with the curse of like the supposed curse of idols not lasting for a long time. And the fact
Yeah.
that they did, and they've like garnered consistent support, consistent people who enjoy their music like that.
Yes. As far as one comment, someone commented Becco 44. I get that idol culture is real, but I also wonder at one point it's a true distinction versus us otherizing the performativity and celebrity culture of the entertainment industry as a whole. And I think it's just an interesting dichotomy because like worldwide this is the case. People are stands,
Yes.
fans, whatever you want to call them, in sports, when it comes to other musicians, when it comes to YouTubers, it's everywhere. It's for the Paul brothers. This shit exists. The only difference is like the
Hmm.
Korean idol industry is to a certain degree an industry that focuses on cultivating that. And if you can cultivate that, then you can get people to spend money and do this, and that. But as long as somebody is is able to do that critically and is able to just like be like, hey, I really love this group. I want to support everything that they do, but not necessarily find themselves just like, you know, for instance, projecting ideas onto them, obsessing with them, or whatever, then fuck whatever anybody has to say about it. You're just a fan of a group.
Right.
It's those, you know, whatever percentage of folks that get online and, for instance, defend an idol whenever an idol does something clearly wrong and say, oh, he's my precious baby, he could never, or, you know, saying like, oh, you know, not even liking the music, but just I love him because he's just such a precious, you know, like these kinds of things. This is part of what the industry is trying to monetize in a way, and I think it's an interesting place. It's something I could talk about for a long time, but I think in
Yeah.
particular what separates BTS is that they took this framework that exists in the idol industry of being interested in creating these idols or creating these, you know, artists
Relationships
with
between
strong,
like
yeah,
fans.
the strong relationships with the fans. They took that and they were like, let's make this something really progressive and really beneficial for both the fans and us. Like, instead of putting ourselves in a position where we're just pretending to be somebody so people can pay us money, we're going to try to be as much ourselves as possible and try to be as positive and progressive as possible with what we do, and really have an impact on the fans who look up to us to grow in their own way. And that's the kind of thing we have here, you know?
Right. And I think something a lot of people, I guess a lot of non-fans wouldn't like realize this is like as much as they let us in, they're also very private people. Like it's never a
Yes.
relationship where things like boundaries are like some things may happen, but boundaries aren't really, crossed because they have a relationship with us where they're upfront, but they're upfront in a way that doesn't harness, like that doesn't like it doesn't take away from their privacy
Yeah.
or anything they're doing. And I think that's the best type of relation. Like other people don't really know how to do that because and I've noticed like Western stands specifically don't really seem to understand that because in America it's like a celebrity's life is like everywhere, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're privy to so many things that you really shouldn't be aware of. And I think BTS have found a way to really let us in, but also remain like to themselves and keep their privacy. And I think that's something that a lot of people probably don't notice.
Yes, I think it's, for instance, when somebody was tweeting the other day, oh, I really wish BTS would just get a vacation, like no cameras, nothing, just time for themselves. And people are just all rightfully like, they do that. There's a reason we don't know about it. It's because that's the exact
Hmm.
purpose, right? Like when they went to the field and stuff, there's different things that they'll do just on their own without telling anybody because
Right,
they're people,
because
you know?
like I remember that year, when they were considering disbanding, to us it was like, wow, this is a huge year for them. Like this, they were achieving so many things. They were like garnering so many fans, and we
Yeah.
would have never known they were ever considering, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's really something that I think a lot of people should take into consideration.
Yes. Absolutely. Well, Solar, we've gone over an hour,
Oh yeah, I
and
just noticed.
I'm pretty delighted with that. I think we had a really great conversation. I don't know. I don't think you have like anything to plug necessarily, but before you go, I would love to. I would love it if you just like could share perhaps like a last message about like something that you want people to know about. You know, either your like kind of like yourself or like something that you're thinking about. You know, with regards to BTS and the fandom, and with regards to like maybe what you do on your own account. Like what do you want people to know about you and about, you know, what you think about the fandom and stuff? Is that
Oh
open?
yeah, like I just wanted to I just want people to realize that, like, at the end of the day, we're all regular, like we're just regular stand accounts, you know what I mean? We're just people here to enjoy their music
Yeah.
and take it in, and and I want people to really, like, I saw before someone saying it's difficult for them to get creative sometimes, and I just want people to realize that, like, you can take things in stride, like you can take in the music and you can find your own way to harness whatever sort of creative, like, push you want. And I want people to, like, just have fun. Like, things just don't let fan stuff and fan wars, like, get to you.
Yeah.
Like, if you find that happening, you should really, like just step back for a while and just realize you're here to have fun, and that we're all just accounts, and just make friends, have fun, and just allow your creativity to flow.
I think that's brilliant. I think that's very much something I can agree with 100%. And it's been awesome talking to you. Thank you for coming on. I know this was probably a little bit out of your element, so I think you did a great job
Yeah,
considering that, especially.
it was really fun.
Yay, excellent. Well,
Yeah, I just really love talking about their music.
yeah, yeah,
So
it's
thank you
great.
for having me.
Oh, it's my honor. It's my honor. It's my pleasure. We'd love to have you on another time. And thank you good to everybody who has come by today. I'll call it a day for now. Maybe I'll come back on later, maybe not. But until then, I hope that this conversation has been cool for you guys. I hope you've learned something or picked something up. Hope you're feeling good. Hope you're having a good week. And make sure you take care of yourselves and take care of your health. I just put out something also, just really quickly, on my other channel that I'll show you guys. Just if you want to check it out, my second channel is Elliot Sang, and I put out this. I'm putting out like music shorts now. So if you're interested in my music in any way, feel free to go check this out. This is like this little Drake impression thing. Haven't done my Drake impression since Gwen Chana, so I had to bring it back. But stuff like that I do on my other channel. But anyway, that's all. That's neither here nor there. Thank you for being here. Have a great night, and see you soon. Thanks, Solar.
Thank you again. I really had fun.
Me too. All right, take care.